Want to find out how different the original book Stargirl is from the relatively recent Disney Plus movie? Well, I have finished reading the whole book, and there are quite a few differences in the second half as well. Let's go ahead and see just how much Disney transformed Stargirl. Well, hello there. My name is Jeremy and welcome back once again to Freeform Disney. Now first, a word from my sponsors. Let me go ahead and one last time thank my newest patrons from the other week. That's Jaramsim, Certain Point of View, and Allison Wallace. And hey, with that, now on to the main event. Today it is time to finish looking at how Disney transformed the book Stargirl into the movie that we all saw earlier this year. Thanks to everyone who loved the first half. Now, if you haven't seen it, feel free to click on the link in the upper right corner or down below in the description. Oh, and thank you also to everyone who has been patiently waiting this video. I know it's taken quite a while, and I do mean quite a while to get this one out. But hey, here it is, and it's still even 2020. Sorry about that. Well, hey, good news though, you're watching the video now, so we are here. Now, when we last left off in part 1, we had just finished chapter 17 of the book, and we were off in the desert meditating. Well, hey, now it's onward to the back half of the book versus the movie. Now, first up, talking differences, the romantic relationship between Leo and Stargirl. Or should I say more so it's Leo's issues? And really, the whole section is so brief in the movie. We get a quick montage of the relationship mostly, and well, actually it's also quick in terms of how much time it takes in the movie. What takes just weeks, it seems like, maybe a month, month and a half, something of that nature, maybe even 2 months. Well, in the book, this is months that you go by here. So yeah, it's definitely different. Well, okay, we dive on in, and hey, in the book, now they're together, they're in love, and Leo feels like they're alone. But hey, it's in a good way for kind of, until he then realizes they really and truly are alone. That's because they've been ostracized, and this is far worse than in the movie. Even at lunch, only Kevin will sit with Leo, and nobody will actually look at him. Heck, he describes it as a chilling isolation. And yet somehow Stargirl doesn't notice all of this isolation. As opposed to the movie where we get a little coldness from people as we're walking down the hallway. But there's really not a lot else that we get to go ahead and see. That outdoor hallway in there, it's just about it. But this is much bigger, and it's gonna go on for longer too. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why the movie just didn't have time to show this part. Part of always a problem of translating any book to a movie, frankly. A book has so much more time invested in hundreds of pages than a movie possibly can. Well, and what do we get next? We get another trip to Archie's. And there's this question that gets posed at the end of it by Archie, who says that he is translating what Senor Saguaro, who, by the way, is the cactus, which we don't actually talk about in the movie. He's kind of a cool big theme in the book, though. But anyway, the question is, whose affection do you value more? Hers or the others? And this is a big theme in the book for Leo. As to everyone else, all the friends, the acquaintances that it doesn't even know, versus Stargirl. And this is a giant conflict for him. And in the movie, you do see a bit of that. You read between the lines to catch the full depth of it. It's there, but not as bold and clear as it is here in the book. And the funny thing is, here at this point, Leo admits he doesn't want to answer the question. He knows it's a problem. So yeah, now here's something interesting. How about that speech competition, right? Well, in the movie, the speech competition, we have it at the school, then she goes off to the state speech competition, that's it. Well, there's a little more to it actually. In the book, because we have a longer time frame we're playing with, we bring in the regional portion of the speech competition. Now, we don't really actually go to it and like see it in depth, but we do hear it referenced. Now, that said, Stargirl, not too popular at this point, so it's not like everyone cheered or said, hey, good job, Stargirl. No. Actually, worse, there were people who booed her when it got announced at school that she had won the regional levels. Yo, dang. She's not popular after what happened at that basketball game. That especially right there. And hey, we also get to see more of that preparation for the state speech, the oratorical tournament, which is going to happen actually in late April is when that state competition will happen, near the end of the school year. Now, in the movie, we allude to Leo knowing what her speech has been, and we actually do see a little bit of him out in the desert along with Archie listening to her practicing. But again, this is part of that montage, so it's really quick and brief, and you're forgiven if you didn't notice it there. But if you know the book, you probably caught that and went, oh, hey, look, that's what that is. But yeah, in the book, she practices the speech on him out in the desert usually, similarly to what we saw over in the movie in that little quick piece in the montage. And hey, here though, an interesting difference in the book is that each time she gives the speech, it's a little bit different. Now, we didn't really touch that in the movie. The only real reference we got made it seem more like it was one speech that stayed relatively the same until all of a sudden she changed it up. But it's a big thing that no, in the book, that speech is different every single time she makes it. Anyway, interesting, cool piece right there. How does Stargirl work her magic? In the movie, Leo never really knows until the very end with the big reveal of the shed. Now, in the book, actually, it's a fair bit different. We get a whole big section chapters where we really get to see how Stargirl does it, and Leo goes with her. And by the way, in terms of going with her, he actually goes and buys a secondhand bike just so he could ride bikes with her. There's even a little comment, because even though he had his driver's license. Although in this one, remember, he doesn't have his own little car like the movie. He actually had to borrow his parents' truck before when we saw. So there is a difference there too. Now, in talking about Stargirl and working her magic, we have a nice piece about Stargirl noticing all the things that people overlook. Doors getting painted, ants walking across, an old man with a coat and tie over at a bus stop. And we also really get to hear both Leo and Stargirl's desires in life. Leo desiring to be a TV director, and Stargirl has this really intriguing line about wanting to be a silver lunch truck driver. Just, well, really a whole fleet of food trucks that would come up to businesses as requested. Really, again, just that whole thing of kind of like pleasing people, and being able to give that nice thing to other people. And we have this section where we deal with the anonymous gifts. Now, in the movie, she coyly doesn't admit to giving Leo the ties. Well, in the book, that's not actually the case. In the book, she does admit to giving him the tie. Although, remember, in the book, there's only one tie, not a whole bunch of them. And actually, she even tells Leo that, hey, yeah, she had her mother go ahead and make it, which makes sense given the work her mother does on wardrobes and theater. So yeah, and hey, that was that. And we moved on to a different conversation. It's an intriguing little difference between the playing it coy versus, yeah, straight up, yeah, I did. Interesting difference right there. And then one more important piece, well, two of them really. The missions that Stargirl goes on are shown a lot more extensively in the book, and Leo joins her on a bunch of them. Now, as said, again, in the movie it's condensed just down to the one with the bike, so we kind of get him going on some missions, but he doesn't seem to really understand how she figures everything out. But in the book, well, we get to see where she gets the info from. So places like the fillers in the newspaper, so those are little pieces that are added in just to take up space and make the ink fill the entire page. And heck, there are also all the other notices and more mundane pieces in the paper. Then she loves to overhear things at the hair salon where people talk. There are tons of bulletin boards around town, such as over at Pizza. So yeah, there's how she finds out everything she knows. And we actually get to hear it during the course of time. So yeah, that's pretty cool actually. And well, we kind of get a good implication she follows people around a little too, because we have this whole 15-minute card game. Hey, follow somebody around for exactly 15 minutes and determine what kind of special card you would get them, just based on those 15 minutes. So obviously she makes inferences too, but wow, look at all that information, huh? Well, now let's go ahead and visit Stargirl's house. And let me tell you, in the book, they are finally going to her house. Now this is much later than in the movie, much later. So here he gets to finally meet both of her parents, I should note, versus just her mom. In the movie, we just saw the mom over in the garage working on some costumes. Here, it's gonna be both the parents are even gonna have dinner, actually. Now we head on into her room, which is actually pretty similar between the book and the movie in many ways. It's plain, all the decorative stuff is actually going to be back in the shed, but there's a couple important pieces here. First off, there is a wooden bowl with her hair for birds. Actually, she used it for helping make nests and stuff. Just one of those touches. And then here's one, the Happy Wagon. And this is super important. Now it does exist in the movie, but it's only in the background in one shot as we're going into her room. Just a reference for anybody that knows it, but it doesn't have any more significance in the movie. So what is the significance of that Happy Wagon? Well, in the book, we hear a lot about it. So there are 20 total pebbles. And when something makes her happy, she puts a pebble into the wagon. And for unhappiness, she does the opposite. Now, when Leo sees it there the first time, there are 17 pebbles in the wagon, the highest number she has ever had. And, well, during that same scene, it goes on up to 18 a little bit later. So yeah, really good time of life for her. And we find out that it's usually been somewhere around 10 plus or minus a bit. And at worst, it got down to 3 stones once. Showing that, yeah, guess what? Even Stargirl has gotten pretty low sometimes. And that Happy Wagon will come and be relevant one more time when things get really bad. Talk about that later. But first, let's keep moving on. So, on the list of odd, unique things that Stargirl does, there's this intriguing little story in the book where she's making a photo album and biography of her 5-year-old neighbor, including, and most certainly including, the bad bits. Because I guess she intends to give it to his parents in a few years, and then they'll be able to give it to the kid when he's old enough to appreciate it. Just intriguing, random little bizarre things like that. I don't know how it would have played in the movie. You gotta play that one right so it ends up being a weird, interesting, cool quirk rather than something creepy, shall we say. I think it could have worked. I don't know. Yeah, timeline, fitting everything in the movie is a big problem there, though. Oh, one other thing I should note, over at that house, there's no talk about music over there. Unlike the huge importance of music in the movie, which makes sense with a certain someone named Grace VanderWaal being cast in the movie. Yeah, you can kind of guess why. Also, I get the impression that the kiss in front of the house was a little bit different because it was a rather quick one over in the movie, but in the book, we get a comment that was no saint kissing me. It doesn't sound like that was just a quick kiss right there. Okay, now we get into this section where I'm really going to talk about a bunch of these differences. I call them Leo the bad boyfriend. Because things really stretch out in the book and we have more time to dig into this, and it takes a lot more time rather than just being a quick thing that's easily resolved. Well, the tension for Leo about how much he needs the attention from everyone else becomes a lot bigger. And, oh man, well, when things get worse for Leo, we just see just how bad a boyfriend he can be. So Stargirl, being the romantic, quirky person she is, one of the things she does in the book is she puts up this giant white bedsheet with a huge heart that says Stargirl loves Leo over on the Roadrunner. This is the big bulletin thing that is in the courtyard in the center of the school. And Leo then gets shunned to a huge degree, where people who didn't even know him would walk away rather than respond to him. First off, yikes. But how does Leo respond to this? This leads to Leo avoiding Stargirl and pretending not to even see her at lunch. And then, even when she finally catches up with him after school, he barely says anything and just turns his back on her and walks off. Wow. Dang. Wow. Let me be frank, that whole choice gets even to make it right here. Wow, though, that just hard for me to fathom doing that to someone. Well, eventually, after days of Leo avoiding Stargirl, she tracks him down after school and, well, asks the rather obvious question here. So, are we breaking up already? Surprise, surprise for that question, right? I mean, you kind of would think so after all that. Well, they have a big conversation about how she doesn't care what everyone else thinks, but he very much does. And this leads to, a lot. Like days of Leo explaining how other people think and social rules, etc. And to be honest with you, frankly, this section really irks me. Yeah, just in the way it's presented, but that's okay. So you can make a guess where this is leading up to. You know the movie, and heck, a number of you know the book, so you know where this is going. Oh, but one last quick piece here, though. Talking about Leo, the asshole boyfriend. Intriguingly, there's an aspect of the movie where there's a lot of tension between Leo and his friends, and Leo spending all this time with Stargirl and not his friends. Well, actually, this isn't there in the book. In the book, he has his closest friend, Kevin, and actually that's the only friend we even ever know by name, and they never seem to have any problems. And heck, other people who sat at the table do end up leaving, but there's certainly no issue, it seems, with Leo spending too much time with Stargirl and not his friends. It's an interesting shift of focus over in the movie versus the book right there. And I guess it also helps take away from Leo being an asshole to Stargirl, so at least he's being an asshole to his friends instead, right? At least there's that. Makes him a little more likable of a character in the movie. Okay, it is time for the big Susan piece. Because now, only after chapters of direct build-up in the book do we finally get Susan, and this is so far in. In the movie, she is very, very briefly Susan, and heck, it feels like it might have even been a few days at most. Now it is considerably longer in the book. I'll give you this one description from Leo. She looked magnificently, gloriously, wondrously ordinary. She looked like 100 other girls at Micah High. Stargirl had vanished into a sea of them, and I was thrilled. Oh, Leo. Oh, Leo. Dang, man. Who is it you really want to be with anyway, huh? Is it really Stargirl? Really? Well, now, with all that change, guess what? Leo actually wants to spend time with his girlfriend. You don't say. Yeah, here is an important difference between the book and the movie. And it's not fully a difference because we just don't really get to see it in the movie one way or the other, because maybe it works in the movie or maybe it doesn't. We don't really see the results of her being Susan that way. There's not a big reaction when she wins the state competition in the movie, but other than that, well, in the book we do know, because we know that it did not work at all. They still hated her. Whether you want to call her Stargirl or Susan, it didn't matter. And remember I said that Happy Wagon was going to come back in? Because here it does. We find out during the course of this that her Happy Wagon was down to 2 stones in it. The lowest it has ever been in her life. Yeah, and that Happy Wagon is such a nice addition here just to give that extra little piece as to just how she is doing. Anyway, let's move on, and we're off to the state speech competition because it's finally time to get there. We are in late April and it is time. Now, Stargirl, Susan, whatever you want to call her here, this is built up a lot bigger because she even had a vision that winning it would make her popular, just like we foreshadowed for a little too heavily in the book with images of a previous winner. You knew where it was going to go because of that foreshadowing. So this is a lot bigger here in the book. It's presented as a gigantic event. Now, a couple of differences quickly about the trip to the contest. First off, the driver is actually someone new, Mr. McShane. Now, no big surprise that the movie would roll a couple characters into one, and frankly, it's a good thing that the movie did it because, yeah, it allows us to get to know that character better. Now, second, it was actually supposed to be both Leo and Dory going with Susan to the actual competition, but Dory was mad at her and refused to come. In the movie, we only see Dory in the background, but in the book, even though we don't see a ton of her, she is far more integral, and we get to know a little more of that Stargirl-Dory relationship. And one last difference about that road trip. On the way to the actual competition, on the way over to Phoenix over there, they stop in the desert, and well, we later find out that she completely remade her speech right then and there in the middle of the desert on the way to the state competition. Yeah, as I said, remember, she changes it again and again and again. Because, yeah, essentially she just remixed it on the fly, incorporating new cool pieces all the time. Now in the movie, we only see Stargirl's speech, and I think that was a great choice. Here in the book, we hear a little about the other contestants and make them sound a little incompetent and bad in front of crowds. Although apparently they all get good applause for their speeches. And by the way, you might not be surprised here, but from what we know about the speech in the book, we never hear it, but what pieces we get, it seems like it is quite different from the speech in the movie. And really, I loved getting to hear the speech in the movie. That was a great moment in there. And so, well done, movie, for actually giving us a great speech. Very good transformation on that one. Now, here come the last pieces on this speech competition, because we have to have this big come down now. But first, over in Phoenix, big ol' Phoenix, Arizona, she was super popular. Now, this isn't seen in the movie, but everyone was congratulating her. Her picture was on the front page of the Arizona Republic, which, by the way, is the state's biggest newspaper. So dang, I mean, she was hot shit over there. Which, by the way, provides a huge contrast to the reception back home, because when they get back, the only people there to greet her or cheer for her at the school are 2 teachers and Dory. That's it. No one else. Which, obviously, whoa, if you are a Stargirl right there. Dang. Oh, by the way, I should note her parents actually came in a different vehicle and came back, so that's why her parents weren't there to greet her when she came back, because they had actually traveled to Phoenix and back, just in a different car. Now, we're on to what I'm going to call the breakup. So the breakup is actually really different between the book and the movie, and yet similar at the same time, which is interesting to say those two things, but here, let me explain. So in the movie, there is a big breakup right afterward. In the book, it actually doesn't happen until after she becomes Stargirl again when the school week starts. So after the weekend's over. So yeah, she goes back to being Stargirl, by the way, which we don't actually get to see in the movie. The last time we see Stargirl before the dance in the movie, she's still dressed as Susan, and that's right after the competition. But hey, in the book, we get this conversation where she says, hey, it's okay that he won't ask her to the dance. She already knows. But unlike the movie, it's not a sad moment. And that's because she is back to being Stargirl at this point. And that means that the only thing that really matters to her is doing what she can to make other people happy around her. So in the same way that she's done all those special things for everyone else throughout the book, even the breakup, she makes it so that it's a nice thing for Leo and actually not this big negative. Because that's who Stargirl is. And hey, after that, Leo just starts to avoid her and doesn't ever say anything to his best friend until Kevin eventually gets the signal that, oh, it must be okay to say bad things about Stargirl in front of him now. Yeah. Well, I know who the bigger person was here on this one. Okay, we're nearing the end of this, but here's big changes, big ones coming. The dance. So the dance is actually a huge, gigantic change. And why? Because majorly, Leo never went to it. In the movie, it's a huge character point, a part of his character arc that he goes there. But in the book, he never did. It's also, of course, set in late May, but that's probably not a surprise in the book either because of the condensed time frame of the movie. So what does that mean? That means in the book, by the way, that the entire dance is told as actually having been stories, heard secondhand, thirdhand from other people, which means that some of the details are even debated in the book at times because people didn't know, was it this way? Was it that way? Which makes it an intriguing little thing to see here. But at any rate, we hear Stargirl made a huge splash. She arrived in this bicycle sidecar with Dory driving as a chauffeur, a giant long blanket of flowers flowing behind. Pretty cool sounding, really. And then there are some similarities because Stargirl starts dancing by herself and still being shunned until eventually it changes as she gets a bunny hop played. And just like in the movie, then everybody starts dancing in the line behind her and off they go. So yeah, but it seems much bigger in the book. And they disappear, wow, for who knows how long once that line goes off. And eventually they come back. And then there's a slightly different confrontation between Stargirl and Hillary. And it's really more severe in the book than it was in the movie. Because here, what happens in the book, well, Hillary tells Stargirl that she ruins everything and then slaps her. And Stargirl, instead of striking her back, which is what Hillary fully was expecting, kisses her on the cheek, and that's it. Then Stargirl is gone. And yeah, that'll be it, by the way. But in the movie, Stargirl goes up to Hillary and apologizes. She actually initiates it. And then when she gets no positive reception from Hillary, that's when Stargirl disappears into the night. So Hillary is nicer, shall we say, in the movie than in the book. But in both cases, this is the last time that anyone sees Stargirl. That's it. So then, as in both the book and the movie, it is time to start jumping off to the future and looking at things from a future perspective. Although, in the book, we jump way into the future because all of a sudden it is 15 years later and we just take a note about it and then we're looking backward from 15 years later at the past events. So a lot of things are similar. The for sale sign, scene with Archie, wondering if she was real. Now, the movie's discussion about using dinosaurs and talking about being both magical and real, I think was really superior to the book's discussion. In the book, we get a discussion about how she's more primitive and in touch with the stars. was. In other words, what we're made of. I just wasn't as much a fan of that, that she's primitive and in touch with her primal self, shall we say, as opposed to the idea of being both magical and real. I thought that idea was much nicer and really well presented. The dinosaurs were a great example. And frankly, it's kind of much more Disney in that sense, about magic and real and combined. I just love that conversation in the movie. One of my favorite moments in there. Oh, and that shed, by the way, it actually doesn't get shown to Leo right then. It's actually a year later after that, after Leo actually graduated high school. Okay, and then we have a little bit more as we're off into the future, and things veer off in a bit of a different direction for slightly different endings between the book and the movie. So first off, the book starts really moving forward in time. We talk about how he kept visiting Archie whenever he was home. Seems like it's probably a yearly event at least. And heck, we find out Leo became a set designer and moved out east. And Stargirl? Well, she's still a topic of discussion, a routine topic for him and Archie. But on this one last occasion, they head out into the desert and Archie cracks open a rock, puts the skull of Barney, the Paleocene rodent, who we saw many times during the book, by the way, shoves into the rock, seals it away, along with a word which he never reveals to Leo. There's a little word on a note. And hey, and that's really about it. The next time Leo comes back to his hometown, Archie is gone. Other people lived over in his house, and both the shed and Senior Saguaro were gone and no longer existed. Yeah. Just all gone. And heck, there's even a new elementary school where Stargirl's enchanted place used to be. And we have this epilogue that goes even further. We find out that Leo never went to school reunions, although apparently Stargirl gets talked about a lot there. He does apparently keep in contact with Kevin, and Kevin still lives in Micah, became an insurance salesman, so much for his dream job. Apparently at the school there's a new club called the Sunflowers, which is one nice thing for someone else every day. That's what they do. And we also hear the basketball team's never done as well as that first year. Probably no big surprise right there, right? But here's a cool thing. Apparently, the first basket that the opposing team scores in each basketball game, a small group of Electrons fans will jump on up and cheer, which the other team always finds odd, but hey. Nice little legacy of Stargirl. And we also hear that Leo himself does all kinds of things that essentially are tributes to Stargirl all the time. But in those 15 years, he has never seen Stargirl or had any sign of her until a week before the end of this, when he received a birthday present through the mail of a porcupine necktie. The end. Which, by the way, bear in mind, that's only the second one he ever got from Stargirl here. We are left to assume that it's Stargirl this time. Probably is. And that's the end of the book, but you can tell that is hugely different than the movie, where we get things with the friends and all kinds of other stuff. It's just very different. Although the underlying pieces of it are similar, the aspect of how the school changed, etc., but the specifics are rather different. Before we're done here, a few other things that happened in the movie versus the book. You may have noticed that I haven't really talked about Leo's parents, and that's because in the book there's pretty much nothing to say. As opposed to how big a character his mother is in the movie. She's huge, very important. There's some good stuff there. And also remember, well, his mother is a widower in the movie, and in the book, they're both still together. So it's a bit of a difference too. And I've touched on this one a little, but probably unsurprisingly, music is not a big theme in the book. And yeah, sure, Stargirl plays the ukulele at school, and he even starts a group called the Yuki Dukes, which is just a fun name to actually say out loud. But hey, that's about it. There are no old records, nothing else like that, whereas it's such a huge theme because we've got Grace VanderWaal in the movie, and so music, which is great, by the way. Oh, it makes the movie so much fun. One other thing I'm going to say. In the movie, Leo appears to really and truly question whether she was real or magical even years and years later, and I never got that feeling out of the book. The movie really went to more of a, was she a magical being and never existed? And yeah, I just never got that in the book. And that's okay either way, really. I don't have one problem and somebody like, oh no, that version's much better that way. No, it's fine. They both have their merits, and it's partly the different focus of what each is trying to tell as a story. And hey, well, that is it. We made it all the way through the book versus the movie. Whew, boy, that was a bit. So there were definitely some big changes between the book and the movie. Here in this time, the big ones we saw how different their relationship was. Leo's desire to fit in, but really in the book it was turned up to 11. Leo going on missions with Stargirl. The differences in the speech competition and how long Stargirl was Susan. The Happy Wagon, which I think was really valuable. The dance that Leo actually never went to. The differences in the future. And really just how much of an asshole Leo was as a boyfriend. There were some big changes in that half. And tons of little ones here and there. So were there more changes here than in the first half? Well, it's hard to say. After all, part 1 had the major setup pieces, so the nature of characters and the places and what they looked like were all in that section, and so there are some big changes that way. But the back half has a lot of the payoff. So some of these changes I think are far more important in the back half. And ultimately, I think there are probably fewer overall changes in the back half, but that they make a greater difference than the ones in the front half. Now, overall, there are pieces I like better in the movie and some that I think are better in the book. Most of what I like better about the book, though, really comes down to the book having more time to delve deeper into the characters and the story. And therefore, there's no fault in the movie for not being able to do that. It just doesn't have the time, and that's the nature of movies and books. Now, I'll say I like Leo as a character better in the movie than here in the book. Yeah, I think you know why. And by the way, Stargirl also wins out in the movie. I mean, Grace VanderWaal definitely takes that one away, no question. Mr. Robinow, who combines 2 of the book's characters over in the movie, well, he easily wins, and it was a wise choice right there. And Leo's mother in the movie is such a significant character, and I love getting to see her as that big character she is. But if we're going to talk about all of the other characters that are out there, they're better in the book. And yes, I think even Hillary is better in the book, but obviously the best friend Kevin is better. Dory, Stargirl's best friend, is better in the book. So all of those other smaller characters get more time. We get to see more out of them rather than just being complete background or semi-non-existent as they are in the movie. So yeah, that's pretty much those points there as to why I like one versus the other. And hey, those are the differences. Now, if you're curious what I think are the best changes, like for me to really rank them down or something, I could always do a video later on that. As I'd frankly have to do some debating to figure it out and make that decision. I mean, I could possibly give you some thoughts off the top of my head, but yeah, to really do it would take some time. And hey, I may still have another Stargirl related video in the future. Perhaps a little earlier than months and months from now. You never know. I'm thinking maybe something like a Clouds trailer, but would have the visuals of Stargirl, so it would be Grace VanderWaal playing Zach Sobiech, which works, the whole music side going on there. I don't know, that could be fun, right? The visuals of Stargirl and the audio from the Clouds trailer. Who knows? If this sounds intriguing to you, let me know. It's definitely something that's popped around in my brain since seeing Clouds a little bit after that, and it's a possibility anyway. Well, anyway, what about you? What was the biggest change or the one that surprised you the most in the second half of the book versus the movie? Go ahead and let me know down below in the comments. And hey, before we go finish up, let me take a moment to thank all of my wonderful patrons. If you're interested in helping support the channel through Patreon, there is a link below down in the description. And thank you everyone so much for watching. If you liked the video, please help me out, give it a like, a share, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the force be with you always.